Hi, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We are continuing Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is Book 3, Chapter 7, titled The Runaway. Who's gonna be the runaway?
Is it Iroh?
We're hoping Iroh, of course, that he's going to get away from the prison that he's in now. We know that he's been building himself up, and like holy shit, he's fit. And he even got to Zuko a little bit in the last episode with sending that thing to him, the scroll, and Zuko learning about his ancestors and everything. Both Roku and Sosin. And speaking of that whole episode, it was an amazing episode, and we talked a little bit about it after we stopped recording.
A little bit.
We talked a lot about it, and one thing that was just kind of curious to us is this whole notion about the nations, how they are divided, or how and how Sosin wanted to unify all of the nations, because it's something we've kind of heard about before from the Guru Patek, with we are divided as nations, as people, but essentially we are all one, we're all part of the same.
And we live in this world of division rather than living as one. And it felt like it was something that he critiqued a lot, and like it was something that we were supposed to learn something from, of course. That we should start to see each other as one and the same, instead of constantly dividing ourselves. And
not seeing the elements as divided either.
Yeah, and that it's one big union. So it feels like this show is trying to tell us that, well, we should unify these four nations in some way. And
yes.
And then we learned that from Roku, that he was like, no, we have to keep everything separate in the four nations. You can't just conquer everything. And of course, it was probably just the conquer element of what Sosin said that he was against.
Yes.
But I couldn't help but think that, well, if Guru Patik says that we can't, that we shouldn't see each other as like these divided, separate nations, then why would Roku be so much against trying to unify everyone?
Yeah. I think you're onto something with the fact that what he was against was the way that Sosin was probably going to go about it, conquering these nations. But just listening to what Sosin said about sharing the wealth, that's a nice thing, to want to do, like for other people, and wanting to unify them in a way where they can all share the wealth and share this world together and prosper together. Like that's definitely a good thing. But it just seemed like Roku was so quick to just shut it down and be like, no, we have to keep the nations divided. But as we said, maybe it was because of how Sosin was going to go about it, and Roku just knew beforehand, like, yeah, you're talking about conquering right now, aren't you? Not just sharing the wealth, and that's why he was against it. But it's an interesting thing to get into, at least, just the messages of this show, and should we stay divided into nations, or should we try to unify everyone and everything, because they're all part of and this world, and sharing it together, just like the Guru said. So yeah, it's really damn interesting to get into. We don't have an answer or anything. It's just something that we wanted to bring up, because we talked about it after watching the episode. But yeah, are you ready to jump into this one?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. And you can, of course, always check out our full-length reactions for Avatar, all the other shows that we are doing, where you can sync up the footage with your own copy of the episode. We also have early reactions where we are 2 weeks ahead on Avatar. It's all over on Patreon. The link is down in the description below. Here we go. The Runaway. So that was chapter 7, The Runaway. As I just said, it was not the kind of episode that we anticipated. Like where our minds were going, like immediately when reading the title. That was, is it gonna be Iroh running away? But no, it was a nickname for Toph, and her pulling scams and then running away with the money. So yeah, The Runaway. And we got a lot more. This was an episode with the gang once again, and we're spending most of the time in the episode was with the Yang Gang, which was good because actually the last two episodes they didn't get a lot of screen time. In the beach episode, we were
Oh
mostly
yeah.
focusing on Zuko and Sula and the others, and then in the previous one, we had that whole thing about the past and Roku
Mm.
and Sosin. So yeah, a fun episode with the gang again. I think that was sorely needed.
But also an episode that delved into the relationships and
Mm-hmm.
their personalities and
Yeah, and just the whole group dynamic, and especially when it comes to both Katara and Toph. And it was fun seeing them, pulling all of these scams and scamming the scammers, taking from people who are already trying to cheat you. But then it kind of developed into a they're just scamming everybody,
yeah.
anyone, just innocent people as well, and that's not good, of course. And I am with Katara there that okay, that was getting way too risky what they were doing, and that definitely turned out to be true because they put up wanted posters and all that in the city, and it kind of that this guy, the combustion man.
I think that's what they ended up calling him,
Yeah,
Combustion Man.
that's what Sokka ended up calling him. Like he got wind of it, and then he showed up and became an issue once again. So he's still on the trail, and he's still very very hard to like even try and fight. Like they're just running from him. They're not standing their ground with this guy still,
Mm.
because yeah, he's just very 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 powerful with what he can do. But they managed to, or Tough managed to disorient him with
Yeah,
throwing that little rock and it hitting his third eye, and then he tried to do the combustion thing, and it just like blowed up all around him instead. So yeah, that we know that you can do that to fight him now, at
of
least that
course. You
it
can
has an
just,
effect.
yeah, hit the third eye.
Yes, hit him where it counts. But you were mentioning also something about like how with Tough and also Katara and their dynamic, where Tough got so damn tired of Katara acting like the mom of the group, and Katara got fed up with Tough, acting maybe a little bit like in the spoiled child, but just being like, I can do whatever I want, and you're not my mom, and you can't tell me what to do, and just yeah, all of that stuff. So that made for some interesting little
Clash.
headbutts there
Yeah.
and clashes. Yeah.
But the thing is, well, seeing it from Tough's side, she's been in this very strict household her whole life. And with all these rules and with all these like very, very, very strict parents all the time,
Hmm.
treating her uh, as if she was not like she basically got all her choices and all her freedom taken away from her.
Yeah, because everything was dangerous, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then Katara, she's starting to be very strict and very rigid and even like borderline. Well, she is definitely she was looking through her stuff
Mm.
and invading her privacy. And of course, this gives a very strong reaction from Toph because this is like, oh, now she's back at this whole.
Yeah, someone trying to keep an eye on me and telling me what I can and cannot do, and just taking my choices away from me, and yeah, looking through my stuff. Yeah, all the things that her parents did.
Yeah, so it's she. Of course, I would say that she's bound to at some point push back and like, of course, she was also being borderline disobedient and a little bit too didn't care about
Yeah,
the scams, didn't care about that she was actually endangering their mission and endangering their position or location or
yeah.
like
Like Katara wasn't wrong when saying all those
no.
things that hey, these scams, it might it might have a bad outcome, and
Yeah,
it certainly had as well. It was maybe more the way that she was communicating it, and not talking to Tough as like a peer, or yeah, she was talking to her like a child, and being a mom. So it was maybe once again a case of communicating in the right way.
sure, but it also felt like and it was possibly just like pure projection from Katara's side, but then she started to analyze Toph's situation and be like, hey, you miss your parents, and even though I felt like that was kind of a grown-up thing to do actually, and say, hey, you might be feeling things now.
Yeah.
And of course I would say that Toph not thinking about exactly like not having complete self-awareness about what she was just doing and why she was doing it, and just being hit with possibly that Katara was right, because she even admitted it later on that Katara was right.
Yeah, didn't want to admit that to Katara.
Yeah, but also if you're in the situation and you're being confronted with the truth, and you're not like mentally prepared for it because you haven't really processed it, then you might, and especially if you're a little bit stubborn and a little bit you like to stand your ground, and like
she's being an earthbender.
Exactly. A true earthbender, then she's of course she's a little bit too stubborn to actually acknowledge that right there on the spot that it will, you're dealing with some things, and all these things that she was dealing with, all the feelings, the emotions, perhaps it's because she's a bit like lashing out at Katara because she's
acting motherly and doing,
that's
something that's very waterbending like, like very it's a
protecting thing.
Yeah, it's a characteristic of people from the water nation, or the water tribe, sorry.
And while Katara actually tried to talk to her and say, hey, maybe you're dealing with some things about your mother. And even though they were very strict, that perhaps you're lashing out, perhaps it's because you actually miss them. And you haven't really processed these things. And then, of course, Toph being an earthbender, she just stubbornly
pushed it away, pushed Katara away.
Yeah, and then later on, after they had done the shenanigans of trying to write a letter and not really realizing that she's blind and not able to either read or write.
Come on, how does people keep forgetting about the fact that she's blind and showing her posters? What is this?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But honestly, I continuously forget that she's blind as well. So I think they're doing that pretty good. But it's just of course, then we learn about Katara, why she's doing the way why she's doing what she's doing.
Yes, and like she's had to be a mother for a long while because they lost their mother pretty early on, and Sokka even said it himself, like he can't even picture his mom anymore. When he thinks of like a motherly figure, he thinks of Katara because she's always been there, and that definitely struck a chord with both, Katara because she could hear it. And then Toph as well, and she was way more open to, like talking about this and seeing things from both, Katara's perspective and Sokka's, and also looking inwards and embracing what Katara actually said to her about her parents, her running away from them, and why she's lashing out. And as you said, like she wasn't open to it at that time because she was just being stubborn, and when the person that you're having a fight with is telling you stuff like that, even like it may be true, but you're like, not right now, like we're fighting, I don't want to agree with you at all. So she had some time to mull it over, and then Sokka he broached the subject again, and just made her realize some things about herself and how she is actually missing them as well. Well, that's what we got towards the end, and then sending Hockey Estelle. Estelle?
Yeah.
And then sending a messenger hawk, or Hockey.
Yeah, but I think maybe they found some common ground in the fact that they missed their mother. And perhaps that when Sokka sat down and explained, well, of course she had to be a mother for me and like for
many
for
others.
herself, and losing our mother was kind of like she just stepped in and took over, and I think that's very natural in families where you lose one parent or both parents, or at least that you have this tendency to, if you're the oldest, or if you
have siblings at least,
that you will take over the role a bit, like not
Yeah.
necessarily being the mother, but at least being a parent.
Yeah, or
And
just being forced to grow up in a way, and maybe quicker than they would have if they still had a father and a mom and a whole family. And it even happens to children of divorce as well, where they didn't exactly lose a parent, but it's still something happened in that family dynamic, and you're forced to kind of grow up faster than you normally would. So yeah.
there's any kind of trauma will force you to grow up faster than you normally would. But the way this struck a chord with me is that my mother lost her father at a very young age, and she was the eldest. And I see, well, at least I've heard that, or I can feel it in her personality, that she has this. She was forced, or not forced to be, but she was definitely taking the role of being a parent, like, or provider, or like she was taking over the role a little bit.
Yeah, being the
And
matriarch of the family.
yeah, and of course, and you know her, so you know that she's very much the matriarch in our family. And of course, it's also where I'd say I get a lot of it from when I get very motherly and stuff. That's definitely because I had a mother that was very motherly as well. But that's just like I can relate so much to Katara's character and the way that she lost a parent, and that how that forced her to be a mother or a parent. And maybe, yeah, well, decades before her time, actually. And I just thought it was a very delicate way of doing it from the creator's side. And I'm sorry I'm getting so emotional, but I think it's supposed to do this because they are attacking all of these different kinds of childhood trauma, and they're doing it in such a nice way, and such a way to empathetically say, hey, these people, they might be annoying as hell, because I think most of us know a person that is like overly motherly and overly strict and overly
or overly rebellious,
also
as
that
Toph was in this episode,
because they trying to
they're dealing with something, like something happened, who hurt you, that sort of deal, like, and just getting to a point where you can maybe talk about it, or like just some sort of communication that's definitely healthy, but when you're ready to talk about it as well. And I think like it's something that Toph has been not trying to think about for a long while, and only now she's starting to realize how much she's actually missing her family. And I think it's the same for Sokka and Katara, even though they've been through so much trauma. It's still something that they don't talk about, or maybe not think about all the time, but it'll still, it's still there. And it was definitely present in this episode, where it came up in their past. And
yeah, we also saw how Sokka and or especially Katara was dealing with problems as well when she was faced with meeting their father again, and she had bottled up all these different issues, or at least like things she was dealing with. And that really come to light. And she probably didn't even, as you said, probably not even thought about it herself before she was actually faced with him, with her father.
Yes.
And then it all came rushing back to her. And
she just knew she was angry at him. Maybe didn't know exactly why, but then, it came out all out in the open, like, you abandoned us. And that's also a part of, all of the grown-ups, or a lot of the grown-ups and the men, them leaving, and them not having their mother. So she had to, once again, just step in and be the parent for both of them, because mom's gone and dad, he went away. So yeah, that's
there's so much in this,
a lot to unpack for these characters, emotionally, and they're doing such a good job of that, with that in this series.
Yeah, and it's definitely like dealing with all these sorts of things in a children's show. It's just, and it's so wonderfully done, because I know somebody in the comments said that if you grow up with this series as a kid, then you can't possibly turn out to be a bad person. Or like you learn
if you
so
take
much
it to heart, at least.
Yeah, of course. You learn so much about relationships and how to see and how to relate to other people. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, is that I think we know all of these issues, or like we can relate to them, and we
Mm.
see a lot of ourselves in these different characters, or we see someone we know in these characters. And if you do that, if that's the thing, at least I find so beautiful with very good series, like when a series is really good or a movie is really good, is when they have characters that are deeply relatable and that you can empathize with. You can relate to them,
Mm.
and you feel empathy
Yes. For them. Yeah,
for them,
yeah.
and
Exactly. That is the mark of, just like a good piece of entertainment, be it a series, movie, a game. Like if you can relate to the characters or the people on screen, and you can see yourself in them, that will make it easier to just also follow the story and care about the story and care about the people. So yeah, they're just doing a really good job with that. But do you have anything else?
I don't think so. No.
All right, fair enough. Then that's going to do it for this reaction and review of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 3, Chapter 7, The Runaway. Thank you all so much for watching as always, and we will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.